Together 13 years, married 11. Extremely frustrated wife. I'm feeling extremely resentful toward my husband. My resentment with him sort of ebbs and flows, but the seed of resentment was planted when I was pregnant with my oldest son. When I became pregnant with our first child, I feel that he emotionally abandoned me. He started coming home from work later and later, not telling the truth about why he was late, where he was at, or who he was with. He would come home drunk. When I was 4 months pregnant with our first child, it was my birthday. He didn't call and came home late, and when he showed up finally he tossed a burger from a drive-thru into my lap, told me happy birthday and took his drunk bottom to bed and immediately went to sleep. After I had the baby, I found out real fast I was already pregnant again. Not a lot changed there for him. For me, I was at home with a 5-month-old and another one on the way. I was super lonely. We were both also drinkers and weed smokers before I got pregnant, but obviously, you can't, or you definitely should not, do those things when pregnant, so I didn't, but he did. So a lot changed for me but not a lot changed for him. When I was pregnant with my younger child and my older child was about 1 year old, I asked my dad if we could live with him so we can save up to buy a house. So we all agreed, and that's what we did. When we moved into my dad's, it was the same thing. Excuses why he was always working and I'm at home pregnant with a baby. Then something weird happened. My dad got sick. My dad was not the type to ask anyone for help, but being that we now lived in his house I could not ignore my dad's symptoms. Long story short, my dad got really sick and I became his caregiver out of default. So now, my husband is never home, I have a 1-year-old, I'm pregnant, and I'm taking care of my dad. Needless to say it was stressful and I really felt alone. I'm happy to say that my dad got better after about 3 months. He returned to work. Shortly after, I had our second child. My husband was still working late this entire time, and before we get all soap opera about it, no, he wasn't cheating, he was just avoiding his responsibilities at home. But nevertheless, I felt really abandoned during those years. After my second son was born, things started to calm down a little. He no longer worked late and my dad wasn't sick. Now I just had 2 kids to take care of. But the resentment never left, really. And I'm glossing over a lot of stuff, like specific incidents that I still remember to this day that I bet he doesn't remember at all, but I do. One of my biggest needs is that I would like to go on dates every once in a while. While we were still going through it, I came to him one night and I told him this and he straight up told me no. He can't be there for me. He can't be my friend and my husband, that I need a hobby and my hobby can't be him. It crushed me. Like, really crushed me. And for many years I never asked him for a date again. I still really wanted that, but I stopped asking. Then came the stage of our marriage where he got super successful at work. We bought a house. And all of a sudden the guy who avoided me when I was going through some really hard times all alone suddenly wants my undivided attention. And I could sense how bad he wants my attention, but after the abandonment, I sort of felt pleasure in ignoring him because I fucking resent him so bad for abandoning me through those really hard years. Again, all the years go by we still don't go on dates. So I started seeing a therapist because I was on the brink of divorce. One of my biggest complaints was that he never lets me talk. He will talk about himself and what a hotshot he is at work and he wants all these accolades and pats on the back. He wants me to ignore the kids and engage him 100% when he gets home. Every night I feel like I have to cook, clean, and all else and also stroke his ego. The ego stroking seems to have become a daily requirement, but God forbid I say a few words and he just shuts me up. In May, I spent a ton of money on a weekend together. I really wanted a date. I did everything. I arranged child care, which is almost non-existent for us. I bought tickets, arranged transportation, did it all. As soon as the kids went off to their uncle's house, first thing he wanted was for me to drop my pants. I wasn't really into it, especially because I knew if I did he'd get what he wanted, roll over, and go to sleep and I'd be alone, again. I spend half my time alone, and the other half is chaos. I just wanted a simple fucking date. I felt like I had to force him to dinner, and he rushed through it, and as soon as we got home and I didn't immediately get naked he got super mad. Mind you, he is not deprived of sex. We have a decent sex life. The whole thing was a turn-off. It led to fight, so no sex and we both woke up wanting to avoid each other. We went to the show I had planned the next day, boy was that awkward. And it completely broke my heart. It really broke me. This year was the first year since we have been doing our anniversary dinner/weekend that we brought our kids. I did that on purpose because I didn't want to plan a weekend alone with him after what happened in May. What do you think? All he wanted to do the whole time was leave the kids alone so we could have time together. Like, WTF? Now? Now you want to do this? It's irritating because it wasn't possible for us to do that and that's not what this trip was. Every other time was supposed to be a couple's date/one-day trip and he never wanted to participate. All of a sudden I give up and only do family trips and he wants to act like we are on a honeymoon? It's so incredibly frustrating. I'm also dumbfounded by him acting like a horny teenager who never gets laid all of a sudden. All of a sudden everything is about sex. It's fucking annoying. I'm also resentful because he won't take me on a simple date every once in a while but I'm supposed to put out? When I had a joint session with my therapist he told him, we don't need to date, we're married. We already did that. Well, okay, I guess we don't need to have sex then because we have 2 kids and we already did that? Last night I made burritos for dinner. I made the chicken, rice, beans, guacamole, put out cheese, tortillas etc. I made the kids a burrito because they're too young to know how to make one and roll it up and then I made myself one. Essentially, it was a burrito bar, all the ingredients, you just have to fill your tortilla and eat it. Nope. He insisted that I make his burrito. It's annoying. The constant nagging for sex, nagging me for food, and I am not allowed to talk or go on a date. Why should I meet his needs when he isn't and hasn't met mine in so many years?